already know if I'm going to take it?
Wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't.
But if you already know, how can I make a choice?
Because you didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it.
Welcome, my friends. My name is Antoine Phoenix, and this is my RP experience. Peace and love to all my brothers and sisters out there. Thank you for hitting the like button, subscribing, sharing, and turn on all notifications so you know when I have a whole new video up. And also share. Today's video is about higher levels of thinking. And it's not as clear-cut as just getting to a certain level and staying there. A lot of times I think, and look, Whole made this excellent video on, and I'm pretty sure he grabs his research off of other therapists or psychologists, people that analyze this stuff. But he was able to break it down into tiny, simplified bits that we can understand, at least to a certain level. And that way I can see what levels of thinking that I have achieved myself over the years. And the fascinating thing about this is, even if you reach a certain level of thinking, you may not stay there. You may dip back down to the lower levels of thinking. And I think that's where a lot of people are, and they stay. And then I can see how different problems arise. And he's going to say in this video, which is new to me, because I have to admit, I'm one of those people that will toot their horn once I get to a certain level or something. I will not get totally big-headed or egotistical. But if I get into a debate or a screaming match with someone, I will look at them of like, you are down here and I'm up here. Why is I'm even arguing with you or something? So a little bit of a humbling experience to me as well. So let's begin.
So what the hell is this all about? This video is about levels of thinking. It is theoretical, which is fascinating, and it also has colorful jokes. I use this diagram a lot in my videos because it helps explain some of the wild things that people say and do. It's based on the work of several researchers. I'm trying to make it easier to read for a wider audience. This is my interpretation of a model of consciousness that I studied. It includes quadrants, levels, lines, states, and types. Today I'm talking about levels. I want to make a big, long video explaining each level in detail, but for now I'm just going to do this short version to get it out of the way and get the ball rolling. But before we get started, here are some misspelled vegetables, because I'm told that it helps if I'm cute. Here's a cactus. So these levels are stages of psychological development. They have been studied by numerous researchers. Some of the most famous models come from Jean Piaget, here's a snapshot of his work, and Abraham Maslow, who had the hierarchy of needs. Everybody is born down here, and nearly everybody gets up to at least this stage by adulthood. There are many factors that determine how you will develop and when, including your surroundings, your choices, your culture, and the brain you were born with. These are the quadrants. They are different ways of looking at reality. In this case, this would be your mind, your brain, your culture, and your society. They all happen at the same time because the mind is the brain, and culture is a lot of minds, and society is what those minds do. I should also say that people are never really in a level. You just slowly develop the ability to think at higher levels as you gain experience, but we all use the lower levels every day. When you have to use the bathroom, for example, that's a level 1 process. It's not a complex style of thought, it's just a feeling or an urge. So some people make it up to higher stages and some people never do. Most people on Earth spend most of their time in these 4 stages, and this one is only very common in modernized places. And it's the first stage where you can adopt a world-centered level of understanding, which means understanding how people think the way they do based on where they're from. Before that level, there are right and wrong ways of thinking, so you would either be doing it right or you're not, and then they would say you're either doing it right or you're not. After that, it's more like, well, maybe I would think that way if I was from there, or maybe I would be more like you if I lived your life. That's where global thinking begins. It's also a limited time that we stay in these lower levels of thinking. Let's talk about what they are and how they work and how to move on. Before I get started, I should say that higher does not always mean better. Some people watch my videos where I talk about my mistakes and they say, "Oh, you think you're at a high level? You sound like a jerk." But higher doesn't mean better person, it means more aware. So here's the lower level of awareness, seeing things. And then as you go higher in the levels of awareness, it becomes much more complex. You're seeing people, seeing almost into infinity.
Okay, now that is important to know. That's why I want to stop right here. Because I'm one of those people that would be like, I'm up here, you're down there. But I think what he means when explaining this is you could be thinking on a higher level, but still behaving badly. For example, there's a term that people will call a person a dark empath, meaning they can see and sense how a person feels, but disregard that input. So they see that the person is sad, and they may even know why the person is sad, but they don't care. I almost think a person that is aware, self-aware, that they are hurting someone, and this is another example, self-aware that they are hurting someone, but they don't give a fuck, is worse than a person that's just oblivious because they just have this blind spot or they lack empathy, the ability to put themselves in each other's shoes. I'm pretty sure he does not use that word empathy on one of those numbers, but I believe people can still be bad even though they reach higher levels because of the fact that they disregard that input. They are like, okay, I see this, I see that, I understand they going through that, but lower level, I don't give a fuck. Okay, let's continue.
And so when I make mistakes in here, I usually know exactly why they're happening. I usually can say things like, I choose women who probably will not stick around. Why? Because I don't think I can support them anyway. Well, why does that matter? Well, usually most of them want a higher level of support that I can provide. And why does that matter? Well, it doesn't feel good when they leave because I can't support them. Okay, well, why do those feelings matter? Can you change it some other way? Can you get a better job or something? Well, I tried to do that. I'm doing the best that I can. Is there some way that you can change the way you try to get money from the world? Well, I've already done everything I can here, and this kind of gets fuzzy. So why am I spending time with the wrong woman comes back to this experience that I've had over and over and over again, and I haven't been able to fix. It's the ability to see through what's going on in your mind and also to see through similar levels of complexity in what's going on in the world around you. So it's not about being good, it's about getting it. Moving up in the levels does not always make you more effective. In fact, this level is famous for making people into hippies. This is the point in development where you begin to understand that everyone has their own way of seeing things. And so who's to say what we should and should not do? This is an illustration of an interaction from each level. This girl is getting validation from a guy that she's not interested in. So she knows how to get the validation, and then she stands back and she can plan how to give less to get even more. And then she looks at that and asks, well, is that the right thing to do? Not really. But am I going to do it anyway in this circumstance because I think it would be better overall? So that's in order. Wanting something, knowing how to get it from someone, knowing how to control the interaction, knowing whether that's right or wrong according to the rules that you live by, and then becoming the author of your own sense of right and wrong.
Okay, I think that is level 2, right? I would call that manipulation. And that's also something where you can understand, because I believe level 1 is your needs and impulses, things you just have to do. Hey, I have to go to the bathroom, I have to eat right now. That's what I'm going to do. 2, you start to understand, oh, I have needs, they have needs. Let me see how I can get what I want without, I would actually think this would be a higher level one, maybe 3. Now, I do think a lot of people that's operating at this clip right here is bad because, as she would say, well, the graph that he used, she's using him for money. She feels a little bad about that, but would she do that anyway? And she has a need that she needs to be filled? Okay, fuck him. I need what I need. Pretty sure some women in my life, wink, wink, be using that or trying to use that on me. Okay. Moving on.
And then when you take another step back to this hippie level, it's like, well, who is anyone to judge my choices? My choices are right for me, and so there isn't really such a thing as right and wrong, it's just what works for me. That's why they call that level the individualist. Different people go through the levels differently, and when I went through this one, it really stressed me out. I felt like I couldn't get my feet on the ground. I saw so many different ways of seeing the world, so many different philosophies, so many different life choices, and I didn't know how to pick one. And if I can't pick one, then I can't get anywhere. So I would say, I don't know what to do. And people would say, just pick something. And I would say, how do I know what to pick? And they would go, pick something you like. And I would go, how do I know what I like? So I really like to plan things out. I like certainty. But at this level, you realize that you're never going to know what happens until you try it. So it goes what I see, what you see, what works for me, what works for us. And then, hey, look, those people have a different thing that works for them. That's level 5, when you can say, okay, I'm like this because I'm from here, and you're like that because you're from there. And then at level 6, it's like, well, where I'm from is really just myself. Everybody is just from their self. And so how can one self have an idea that's better than any other self? Whereas at an earlier level, you might be able to say something like, well, my dad was an accountant, and so I'm an accountant. That's just what we do, and you don't have to deal with any of this uncertainty. So higher is more complex, but complex is not always good. The way I explain it is that you can have a really good shoe or a really bad car, and I think what I have is a sinking cruise ship. So if higher is not always better, then why should we grow? Well, because higher is usually better. If everyone was at these lower levels, we would not be able to have grocery stores and electricity. We have a complex world, and it requires complex thinking. And some problems cannot be solved at the level they came from. Everybody watching this is going to have a different fingerprint of development. That means that your different lines or capacities, or the ways that you use your intelligence, are all going to be developed to different levels. It's possible to be very lopsided. For example, you could have your cognitive line all the way up at 9, but your moral line all the way down at 3. You could also be higher up than another person overall, but they're still way better than you at a particular thing. For example, this could be somebody who really understands history and politics to a high degree but has low empathy, and this would be someone who kind of gets it but is great with people. So as I go through them one by one, try to remember where you went through them and what that felt like and where you think you are now. Okay, level 1. I call this survive because it's just basic moment to moment. What do I need? Do I need food? Do I need sleep? It's just my own feelings, and there's no such thing as someone else's mind. If we were living in this level, we would be in small survival bands, and we would not be thinking much about each other's thoughts. We would be doing what we must in order to survive. Level 2 I called connect because now you can think about what is in someone else's mind. What does this person want or need? Primitive people at this level will sometimes do rain dances or throw virgins in a volcano. I'm not sure if that's real, but it's the kind of thing you would expect to see because at level 2 you're realizing, okay, I have a mind and I need things and other people have minds and they need things, so maybe it's not raining because we haven't pleased someone in the sky. Maybe the volcano is angry because it wants something. And what do I want? Virgins. So level 2 is all about what I do affects what other people think about me and what they do for me. Basically, like this. If we were living at level 2, we would be in small tribal groups, and we would be focused on safety and security and maintaining functional habits and dependable practices just day to day. Level 3 I called control. This level is still very popular in modern society. So at level 1, I have a mind with feelings and needs, and at level 2, I know that other people have minds with feelings and needs, and sometimes maybe I think a volcano does too. And at level 3, now I know that other people are aware that other people are aware that they have feelings and needs. So I know that these people have a relationship to each other the same way that I have a relationship to this and to this and to this and to this. Now I know he has a relationship to her. So instead of just direct connections, this creates social situations. Here is a woman seeing man bad on her phone, and then she sees the man in her life and goes, oh, wait a minute. If man bad, then maybe that man bad. And then at level 3, you would step back and say, well, what do I do about this situation? Why is he being bad, and what can I do about this relationship?
So level 3. I believe this is when people just blindly follow people. If you see people that blindly follow Andrew Tate, or people that blindly follow any woman that's saying something online or in their life bad about men, they will pit that on, the women will pit that on the man that they are with. That's why a lot of times talk shows, things that they watch online, the Jersey Shore, can be bad for a lot of women because they cannot get past that point. My ex-wife was like that, but I believe a lot of women are like that particular thing, and men can be like that too. That is how a lot of times you get certain people in power, like in the past, the person, and I'm trying not to say his name, but he was from Germany, started the World War II thing and got a bunch of people to follow him because he understood the lower levels of what they needed. And I understand the whole thing of, in a way, of how people decided to follow him, because their country was suffering from World War I, and they was basically broke and wondering why they are struggling. And you have a person coming and say, hey, we can take back our lives and become the best. Okay? And who's not going to get behind a victory speech like that, pretty much? So it was something else I want to add with that right there. Yeah, okay. So me, for instance, I can watch something online, and I have to admit, it used to really get to me when I see women just man bashing or men saying things, and it's affected me the opposite way. I would not follow men that's just saying women are trash. I would look at the women and see that they are bashing and saying stuff about men. Look at the comment section, see how many likes that they have. Women would say that they're not like that, they don't think like that, but a lot of them online is kind of showing how they really move in life. So seeing that particular thing right there had me turning and looking at the men that are saying, well, women ain't shit neither. And of course, I'm going to go that way because I'm like, well, obviously, most of the women, y'all don't like the average guy. So I'm going to go this way. But even once I got into this environment about seeing how women are not the angels that I thought they was, I still know how men are. Not all men, but how a lot of men are. But now I just don't have that thing of how I look at women anymore. And that's going to make a relationship hard for the next woman. Even though I'm not going to automatically think that she's bad, I'm just going to wonder if I can find the woman that thinks similar like me and can understand the man's point of view. And that way we can come to a middle ground. She doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be like that. And I don't encounter these problems when women are just friends or associates because we glaze over this stuff. But in a relationship, it will rear its ugly head. This is why it's very important that I meet a woman that's kind of thinking on my level. And once again, that's my ego getting up there, but just being more able to see other perspectives, especially the male perspective and not just the female perspective. And we're playing victim Olympics all day.
If we were living at this level, we would be living in something like the Roman Empire, a mythic, feudal, and exploitative empire. You see this level a lot in things like the mafia and in sports teams, firemen, police, military. So even though these levels 2 and 3 involve thinking about thinking, it's mostly just for the purpose of getting what you want and having power over others. Level 4 I called belong because the primary drive is to fit in, and that drive is motivated by what they call second-person perspective. So again, at level 1, you have your own feelings, urges, and needs. At level 2, you see those of others and you can react to them, but it's still all about what those feelings mean to you. And at level 3, you understand that you're in a complex social web of relationships and you can react to those relationships and exert control over your situation. And at level 4, that's when you realize everyone is in their own situation. That's where we get the classic folk wisdom of don't judge somebody until you've walked a mile in his shoes.
Now, for me, I think this is my default setting. No, I wasn't born like this, but I do think around 10 or 12, I somewhat got into this thing of put myself into another person's shoes. And that's helped me a lot of understanding how people do what they do. But depending on what it is, like if a person is a certain kind of way because something happened to them, but they're hurting other people, then I don't give a fuck. Especially when it comes to kids. You need to get help or something. I understand you had a hard life and certain things happened in your life. Now, I don't like that title that he put is belong, but I do see that's where the people pleasers or the people that are fake nice, a lot of people will be clustered in that particular thing right there because we all understand how other people think or feel, but we may behave in different ways. Some of us just because we want validation. Some of us just because we're just trying to be friends and manipulate people. So I think you can get to a level and then also, and this is not something he's going to say here, maybe when he does other videos, I believe a lot of people, especially people that are callous and don't care about other people's feelings, they can reach these higher levels and then reach down to the lower levels and then do what they're going to do. But yet they can achieve that particular thing right there. Similar like the fake friend or the woman that's trying to get married and acts like she likes a guy and she doesn't like the guy. She's not even interested in the guy. She's just trying to get to the goal using the lower levels. And the same thing with men that's just trying to get in the panties. They are they understand her, but at the same time they're reaching down to the lower levels to get what they really want out of the situation. I think with that belong thing, when you achieve empathy, I don't think you do those things of being fake to a person or trying to use a person, despite the fact you can use the ability to understand where other person is coming from and to put yourself into someone else's shoes. Yes, I'm going a little bit more high ground here, but I do see the difference because I am usually on this level. So I can usually see the perspectives and understand the people that's operating on lower levels of how they are. But I do admit I have to reach down to, I believe is the first one, of, okay, I understand all that, but you hurt a kid, you hurt people, you blew up a school, whatever the case may be. I don't give a fuck of your reasons. You should have got help. You deserve what you get. And that's also how it works when someone does me wrong. I have that thing that stops me from trying to dog a woman out or use and abuse someone. But if I catch them using me or trying to use me, then that moral thing goes out there. Then is more like, hey, so you want to play? Fine, we're going to play. But I'm trying to be better here and then just cut the person off. Because I believe one of the lower levels is to just leave the person. So instead of getting in the mud playing with them when they are exhibiting certain negative traits, instead of trying to make them feel what I feel, to try to shake them awake, just leave them on red. And that's all for this take.
You are in this situation over here, but imagine if you were him in this situation over here. Maybe you would have done what he did too. That doesn't come online until you get the second person perspective at level 4. When level 4 was brand new, it was basically medieval empires. It says mythic empires here, nation states. Basically large groups of people that lived by a set of rules that they shared, as opposed to the do what you want mentality of level 3. Level 4 focuses on good versus evil. The entry to that level is called the diplomat because of the way that they focus on acceptable behavior and social norms. That's their way of getting over the problems from the previous stage. You can tell when second-person perspective is coming online in children because they start looking in the mirror more. They start to realize, oh, I have other people looking at me the way that I look at other people and I have feelings about them. They're looking at me and having feelings about me, so I better be up to their expectations. Level 4 is the beginning of what we traditionally refer to as morality. Here again is the woman seeing man bad on her phone, and then she feels like, well, maybe this man is bad because my phone said so. She's projecting that onto him, having a negative experience, and then deciding what to do about it. I'm going to break up with this guy. He must be bad because I felt like it was true when I saw it on my phone. And then out here, she takes a step back and looks at herself as if she is a second person, which is why they call it second person perspective, and thinks, is that the right thing to do? This is the first point where it becomes obvious that consciousness is important, because a lot of people see things on their phones or on TV, and it gives them a feeling, and then they see that feeling coming from others, and then they do something about that relationship. So they might begin treating somebody poorly because they saw something on their phone that made them feel like, well, if that's happening here, it must be happening here too. And it's not until you slow down enough to get to level 4 that you can take a step back and ask yourself, is this a valuable process? The way that level 4 typically functions is through conformity and agreement. I believe this is the wrong way to behave. I believe this is the wrong way to behave. Agreeing on what's right and wrong and creating a set of rules and following them can solve some of these earlier problems, but also there are an infinite number of ways to decide what is right and wrong. You can have this set of rules over here or this set of rules over here, and that's where level 5 comes in. Level 5 introduces objective observation as a value. Basically, okay, you guys think A, B, C is right, and you guys think X, Y, Z is right. Well, let's figure out which one is better. And in order to do that, you have to take another step back into a third-person perspective. So again, the first 3 levels are all about me, and then level 4 is, if I was another person in my culture, how would I view my behavior? And then level 5 is another step back. If I was an alien or a stranger, how would I view my culture? This also enables you to view other cultures and sets of social norms. That's why it's global. It's the first time that you can go, oh, I get why they're like that, because they're from somewhere else. Level 5 has only really been around for a few hundred years, and it is basically where we get science and the assembly line and other forms of modern conveniences. Level 6 is where things get really fun. You might remember how it went for me. Level 5 is into objective observation, but level 6 recognizes the role of the perceiver. A different perceiver is going to equal a different perception. That brings in the fourth person perspective. So down at 1, you have me and my needs, the way I relate to others, and the way I get my way in my social situation. And then you take a step back. What does my behavior look to others around me? And what rules do we make about that? And then another step back. What would our set set of rules look like to a different group of people. And then level 6, you step back again, and well, the way that you are looking is going to determine what it looks like. So when you look here, you'll see one thing, and when you look here, you'll see another thing, and when you look here, you'll see a third thing, because of who you are and where you came from. So there isn't really any way to objectively observe. Not being able to objectively observe can feel weird. Level 6 is very new. There were a few philosophers talking at that level in the 1800s, but it didn't really show up in mainstream society until 1960s America. So because the way that you're looking determines what you're going to see, that means there are multiple perspectives that are valid, because we all have a unique personal subjective reality that's not observable to others. Basically, how do I know that the red that I see is the same as the red that you see? Maybe my red is your green. From the fourth person perspective, there's no way to know. Level 6 is a really good example of why higher development is not always necessarily better. It is a very high degree of moral development, recognizing the validity of everyone's perspective. But let's say, for example, that there's a problem going on down here. Let's say that this guy did something that is considered morally wrong in this culture. But wait a minute, he says, that's how we do it where I'm from. So when level 6 goes crazy, they start saying things like, we can't make this guy follow these rules just because he's here. He has these rules where he's from. And who are you to judge which set of rules is better?
Okay, I'm going to let him talk after this. I'm not going to interrupt him because I'm not sure if I've reached some of those higher levels. Now, I do think this is how you can start going crazy, when you start taking all these different viewpoints, going with your moral values, and you start coming up with this stuff of, let them just be, this person is just like this. No. The simplest thing for me, because I definitely operate on the global thing. Well, as I say, my default is around the empathy level of level 4. Then 5, I can look at the worldview, and that is why for me, which, oh God, I'm so glad that I have disability. I can go to other nationalities and other cultures, and long as they're not being violent or really antisocial to me, I can blend in. They can be Asian, they can be Irish, they can be white. I don't really feel out of my depth, because I can usually find a common ground with all the people that I would come across, even if we don't look the same. Now, oddly enough, sometimes I will have that problem with my own culture, but I think it's only because sometimes I'm expecting more of them than what they are willing. So if they operate more on that middle class, African American level, not calling each other the N-word, we can operate pretty well. I can do okay with some people that's on that level, but they have to still be able to somewhat achieve a higher level of thinking and not just stay down in the depths of, I want this, I want that type of thing. Because the 1 and 2 people that consistently stay on those levels really turn me off. I really don't like being around them. And that's with that stuff of, I can admire it to an extent that they will just live their life and not give a fuck of what other people think. But when a grown man is walking around with his pants sagging down below his ass, standing in front of me at a store, and I'm like, I don't want to see this shit, particular thing. I know he don't care. That's alpha to a lot of females or women. But I understand now that's because those women are operating on those lower levels. So I learned something else here now, that when I'm dealing with people, if they are operating on the lower levels, then we're not going to work at all. One other thing I just wanted to do, because this is going to be my last speech until my ending speech, is when I'm looking at different viewpoints, it all depends on what the other person has done or did. Once again, my line usually is if a person has hurt kids. That's why I have no sympathy for the P. Diddy thing. Even though the stuff that he's did to grown men and adults is also very bad too with what I'm hearing. But with kids that have no choice in the matter when they are younger, because those older people could have said no. That's why, while I feel empathy for Cassie getting beat by him, I also see how she put herself in that situation because she was on that lower level thinking that she just wants to get the bag. I got the bag, I got a billionaire, and then that turned out being a hellish experience. So with the grown adult people, you at least had a choice until you got in too deep. Is similar like before you join the mafia. You don't even know they exist, but once you get in there or a gang or something, then you're kind of stuck to live that life or either leave out the other way. But kids have no other choice, and then once they get messed up, they're going to probably do that to another kid once they get older. So that is the thing right there. So that's my line when people are just hurting people. But if it's something like a person doesn't know whether to take their shoes off when they come into another person's apartment, similar like in most Asian countries, I know China and Japan does it, probably Korea does it too, is their custom to take the shoes off as you enter their place of living, and you're from somewhere else and you don't know that custom or either know to bow and do certain things like that, then those things should be kind of lax. Like, oh, they don't know. Now, if they choose to live in that environment, then they will have to learn some of the customs so that they can fit in better. That I do agree with too. See, and that's a different perspectives. But I go by what it is. And depending on what it is, if it goes against my moral code or I think it's totally wrong, then I don't give a fuck where you are from or how that's cool for you because you are crossing the line. And even though they pit up with that, that don't mean everybody's going to pit up with that. So, let him end this.
We should recognize everybody's unique perspective. And that can and often does give people the idea, I guess I can just do whatever I want because who are you to judge? That's why we have problems like this. And yeah, some of these people are unfortunate and that's sad, but some of them are just doing whatever they want, and we now have laws that don't distinguish between them because who are you to judge? So at this point, there is this white break in the chart, and that's because we are moving up to second-tier consciousness. And what that means is that level 7 is the first level that can understand and include all the previous ones. At level 6, they still insist that they're correct and no one else is. For example, at level 4, you might have a Christian church and a Muslim mosque next door arguing over who has the true faith. But at level 6, we can all get along, we just need more understanding, when that's not what either of those groups wants. So even if level 6 says that they're about equality, they're saying we all need to be equal even if we don't want to. And it's not until level 7 that we understand how to actually give each previous level what it wants to have so that they can live in harmony. At level 7, this fourth-person perspective gets expanded through time, which creates awareness of the self as a history of your own experience. At level 6, everyone has their own view, and so who's to say who's right and who's wrong? But at level 7, you take yet another step back and you realize that that unique view didn't come from nowhere, it developed over time, and everybody else is developing over time. So at level 6, because we are all the same, everybody belongs wherever, but at level 7, since we know we all change over time, people belong where they fit the best. So for example, does this behavior fit here? If not, then it has to go where it belongs. And if it does, then we can all learn something new from it. That's why I called it Harmonize, because it's no longer about radical inclusiveness. It's about recognizing interrelated systems and how they are either synergistic or clashing. Radical relativism and radical inclusiveness, they sound nice, but they do create a lot of clashing. People who are at level 7 tend to naturally recognize development without studying this chart or any of the stuff it came from, and it's pretty fun to see. I asked one of my life coaching clients a question, and he said, well, a little while ago, I would have answered it like this. And before then, I would have even answered it like that. And maybe a few years ago, I would have answered it like this. But now, and so he told me all about his development through the levels as his answer to the question. As far as I know, there is not yet any large collection of people at level 7. You can find a lot of these people in San Francisco, and you can find a lot of these people in New York, and you can find a lot of these people in Alabama, and so on. So let me know if you think that you're up at this level. I'm trying to build a time army so we can all get together and work on all this from up here. And I'm not really sure if these numbers are accurate. I get more confident the lower it goes. But I know I enjoy meeting them because their ability to naturally balance and synergize things and put everything where it belongs means that they're going to be instrumental in solving a lot of the problems caused by the previous levels. The levels get more difficult to explain the higher they go. You may have noticed there's a lot of words here. And level 8 is pretty rare. I don't meet a lot of people who are stably at it, and even when I do, I don't think they spend a lot of their time there. So level 8 appears when you take another step back from this, and we are now witnessing ourselves change over time in the moment. As you behave, as you think and feel, new parts of you emerge from the ether. That's what it means to be construct aware. It means that you're watching your own mind construct itself as you go. So at level 8, you can see all these different parts of yourself kind of coming out to play. For example, you could look at an image of a donut or a donut sitting on a plate, and you can go, I'm feeling many things right now. I'm feeling hunger for the donut because it's good, but I'm also feeling a sense of guilt from one time that I ate a whole box of donuts that were not meant for me, and then somebody gave me social punishment and shame for that, and I also got a stomachache because I ate too many. I'm recalling that memory as I look at this, and it's influencing what I want to do. So now that I'm aware of all that going on in me, do I want to listen to it or not? Do I want to be the kind of person who just has a donut anyway because I'm an adult and I can do what I want? And it might sound silly when you're talking about donuts, but imagine that this is something like global politics. Or even an interpersonal relationship. Like, yeah, I saw this on my phone and it gave me a feeling, and I'm aware of where that feeling is in myself, and I'm aware that I'm projecting it onto this person, and I'm aware of my impulse for what I should do about it, and I'm aware of what my culture says I should do about it. And then all of that is wrapped up in objective observation and the story of who I am and how I got here over time and how I'm viewing the event because of my personal history. Do you see how that gives you a lot more power to change your behavior in situations like this? Imagine if more people could see something and then see their own reaction to it instead of just reacting, and then know where that reaction comes from in terms of their history and their culture. Think how much more power that would give us not to just react in the moment. That's why you should be thinking about thinking. Anyway, level 9 is very hard to describe. I do think that I spend some time up at this level, and the way that it feels to me is like all I'm doing ever is watching and wishing, and that's all I've ever been doing. At these first 3 levels, you are the main character, and at level 4, you understand everyone is their own main character. And then you understand that everyone's watching a different show because everyone is a different show, and that show is constantly evolving and changing over time. And at level 8, you're just watching the show happen. You're not even identified with being the show anymore. You're just watching yourself be. So when my mind is up here, it's like, okay, I'm seeing myself, seeing my history and where I came from and what I'm like and what I do, which is made of all this stuff, all the memories and habits from the lower levels. I'm watching myself, observing my emergence over time, interacting with the present moment. I know where I'm from and what that has made me like, and I know what's happening now, and I'm watching them come together, and I'm looking at myself, looking at that. And so how you do the looking is what's important at this level. It's like, what are you looking at? I think you need to be looking at this part right now. I think you need to be looking at this function in your life. Maybe you're looking from here when you should be looking from here. So it's like what I'm watching is watching itself. And again, here you would be watching your personal needs, and here you would be watching the reactions of others, and here you would be watching your situation that you're in, and here you would be watching what others expect from you, and here you would be watching observable reality, and here you'd be watching where you're from to know how you interpret things. And here you'd be watching what are all your habits and pieces of you put together, and how are they interpreting your reality. And here you'd be watching those habits and pieces coming together in the moment and sometimes being surprised by what they do. And then here I feel a responsibility for knowing where to watch those things, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's this chart and how it works, the levels part of it anyway. The rest of it I'll get into another time. And if you want to move up the levels, the best way to do that is just sit with your thoughts and think about them and figure out where they come from. Here's another example of what that looks like. So sometimes I worry that my little scribbly drawings are kind of embarrassing to show to 200,000 people. So why am I feeling the embarrassment? Well, I guess I'm worried that it's going to have some kind of a negative impact on me. What kind of negative impact would it have? Well, I guess maybe people would not like my channel or might say some bad things about me because I don't have more sophisticated graphic processes. Well, why would it be so bad if that happened? Well, then I might lose out on opportunities that I could otherwise have if I had better looking graphics. Well, how do you know you would lose out on those opportunities? That's a good question, because so far I've been doing pretty good with my scribbly whatever this is. So then if you don't have any evidence that you're going to lose out on opportunities because you're doing this, then what's wrong with it? Okay, I guess problem solved. I can do this for now. And that's why I called this level complete.
And there you have it. I actually learned some things from here. I don't think I ever got to level 9. And that hippie level, level 6, I skipped over that level. Or that's the thing too. I think when you get these levels, I think it's probably 2 branches, because there's different people's perspectives that would be in there. I do realize that I am my own individual, and actually that is what helped me reach a little bit to the lower level and be like, okay, I don't give a fuck now. It's similar like this YouTube channel. I have all this stuff bottled up inside of me of how I think and felt about things. But at the same time, I worried if people that met me before or kind of knew me would understand why I was doing this or why I thought this way. And I mulled over this for a while, but then eventually I was just like, fuck it. Everybody has their own thoughts, their own life. I'm using women as an example. I've overheard women talk amongst themselves when I happen to be in the next room or something, and they are talking about guys, good and bad, and things like that. And while men will also do a similar thing when they get amongst themselves and talk about women, I just think women just go more in depth. And I think I always empathize with them without looking at myself as an individual and how some men do not fit the narrative that they are spinning. Is the men that they are picking and the men they are going with. This is why I'm thankful for the man space, because they was pointing this stuff out. And of course, some of them was messy, like Fresh and Fit, Andrew Tate, those type of guys. But pretty much, like I said before, and that quick, I forgot exactly what I was going to say. But I know it's along the lines of everybody has their own perspective, and a broke clock will be right twice in a day. So even if those toxic guys are saying things that are wrong, same thing with the toxic women, they do make some points with what they are saying. Similar like that previous video that I did, and you should see, about a woman saying that all men cheat. Okay, And while the things that she was saying, the way that she laid it out, of flirting, texting, liking another woman's photo, she considered that all cheating. But the funny thing is, I don't know a woman that don't do one of those things. So that's why I will always say every woman has cheated on me, and if I cheat on them, it's because they cheated on me or they did something I did not like. My big mistake is I did not tell them, and I guess I expected them to read my mind and be at level 4. And this is why I think women will say they are the most emotionally intelligent. I believe they can reach those higher levels, but they don't always either empathize or put themselves into the other person's shoes. Is, like I say, that 4th level, which I believe is my default setting, because most of the things I do in my life, well, not most of the things, but the things that I do that requires dealing or interacting with other people, even this YouTube channel here, because of the experiences that I had with other people, white people, women, the good experiences, I cannot just come on here and just say all women suck or all white people are racist and stuff, because I have experiences that is contrary to that narrative. So I would never spin that particular thing. But there are some people that will. Now, I'm not sure if they truly believe it or if they are just playing the character. But one of the big things is I want to be true to myself. And that's my own personal thing. I just want to be true to myself and give people a closer look that have known me. And that way they know where I'm coming from. However, I notice, I know they may not even care or they may not understand where I'm coming from. But I know there are some people that will. And eventually, I think this is probably the best way, maybe, to meet the best woman for me or the best way to weed women out. Because they will know, seeing my channel and seeing how I think, they probably will test and see, but they will not take it too far because they know I will drop them now, like a bad habit. And I don't have nothing to make me feel bad now because I put it all out there, pretty much. Well, not everything, but I put most of it out there. So, that's it. Give me a like and subscribe. Have a good night. God bless everyone. And try to think more on how you are treating other people and how other people are treating you, and just have a different perspective. And as he said, it's not right or wrong, but I do think it's a waste to achieve those higher levels and then don't give a fuck. You should only have that energy when you are trying to do something in your life that is good for you. And before somebody takes that somewhere else, I'm talking about a career or something you always wanted to do, and either people doubted you or either they tried to drag you down or you had your own doubts. That is when you should put that I don't give a fuck type of energy. And that's it.
I still wanna run to you. Am I breaking through? Do you feel me too?
Pando made it.
I still wanna run to you.